Hey YouTube, I want to talk to you guys about debt today. A lot of people are deathly afraid of debt. Talk to people that are like, oh, I want to be debt free, I want to pay cash for that, blah, 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 blah. A few months ago, I bought a car, paid like $5,000 for it off Craigslist, It was a good deal. But looking back, I wish I would have financed it. That's probably like the worst decision I ever made. I went to close on a real estate deal and I came up short by $2,000. I was gonna pay cash for a house, and my credit was pretty trashed right then because of a couple real estate deals. But anyway, regardless, debt to income ratio was pretty high at the time, and they didn't want to give me a loan, even though I had like 90% cash. But if I would have financed that car, the cash would have saved me. I know it's kind of contradicting. It's pretty complicated, but when you finance something, whether it be a house or a car, each day the money sits in the bank that you owe them, the value of that money goes down. And if your money is not making you money, like the bank, they're getting a low interest rate because it's artificially lowered. Banks, the Fed, stuff like that, they lose money, purchasing power, to be more precise. If you take that money and you start making it make you money right off the bat, then even if you're $1 million in debt and your payment on it's $5,000 a month and you're making $10,000 a month, that debt each day is losing value, and your margin that you're going to be making money, you're making $5,000 a month today, and your payment stays the same at $5,000. In 2 years, I guarantee you'll be making $12,000 a month on that $5,000 a month debt. So not all debt is a bad thing. Yeah, there's other factors that go into that. Oh, the market crashed. The sky's falling. Stuff like that, But you have to be smart, and you have to diversify yourself. The way I diversify myself in real estate is through different rentals. And, it has to be pretty widespread chaos if someone's not going to make their rent. Especially all your rentals, all your tenants not paying their rent on time. Yeah, a certain market getting hit bad. A certain town, small towns, a plant's closing down, so we're losing 20% of our workforce. That's actually happening in my hometown right now, and I'm losing one of my renters because of it. So he pays me $600 a month on a house, and my payment was me like $300 a month on the house. So that's kind of sucks. But if you lose one tenant and you've got 8 more rental properties pulling in income, profit, you can make up for that one payment. And it doesn't really cost you anything because it's coming out of your profits, and you're still purchasing an asset. I think when I put that house on the market, it took me 2 weeks to get some money in there for $600 a month. People turn over. It just happens. He was on a month-to-month lease. He's been there for like 2.5 years. He was having marital problems. I knew it was coming, so it wasn't a big surprise. I knew where he worked. I knew the plant situation. But you definitely have to stay informed. You have to make risk decisions and implement controls. It's exactly what they teach us. And you can apply that to real estate too. And then you supervise, and you just watch it. And then when something happens, you just make a change. And then you go and you get another tenant. If it's down for 2 weeks, it's not really that big of a deal to throw a $300 a month payment out, because when they move in and it's $600 a month, I'm going to charge them a $600 deposit. And if they have a pet, it's going to be $250 deposit. These people that are in there now, when they moved in, we gave them the option to pay a $250 pet fee, or a $50 a month, or when they moved in, it's $250 refundable pet deposit, or a $50 a month pet fee, non-refundable. And they chose the $50 a month fee. Well, they've been living there for 2 years. You do the math. $50 a month, that adds up. Especially if you have a lot of rentals like I do. And I don't even know how many I got. File over there somewhere. But when the rent comes in, I just pull my rent roll out and check. Oh, you're late. Call you up. Hey, what's going on, man? Oh, my dog died. Yeah, well, we're going to have to charge you that $25 a day late fee. I know things happen, but rent still has to be paid on time, and if that doesn't happen, then you file a 3-day pay or quit, and then if they don't pay, then you can start the eviction process, and you can have people that take care of you in that process. There's property management companies that specialize in that. If you're cross country, I know people that's had rentals in Virginia, they live in California, and they just have a company do it, and they'll go in there and rehab the house and blah blah blah. Or if you have family in the area, you can have them take care of that kind of thing. The rehab usually isn't an issue, but sometimes there's definitely horror stories out there of cases where people have just totally trashed rental units. Section 8 housing, I try to stay away from that. A lot of landlords I know personally, they try to stay away from Section 8. But there's good and bad with it. Some tenants live there for 5-6 years, and they're good people, and then you got other ones that are just low down scum, and they really don't care. They have 5 dogs in there, and they're doing drugs, and they try to move out, and they leave their dogs in there for a week, and they're trying to find a place, and blah 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 blah, and XYZ, and shit happens, and it's horrible. But it's bad. It can get pretty bad. There's a lot of horror stories out there. There's a movie with Michael Keaton. I think it was produced in the 80s. And it's called Pacific Heights. It's a good look. Pretty much goes into a landlord buying a huge Victorian and trying to get tenants to fill the rooms and have their own apartments, and then he gets a professional tenant in there. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. It's pretty gruesome, and he gets a restraining order against Michael Keaton and steals his identity and trashes the place, and he finally goes through all the court processes and gets the guy evicted, and they open the door, and it's bad. I'll let you guys watch it, but this video was pretty much it's supposed to be about debt, and how having debt now is good if you have something coming in to cover that debt. Because the amount coming if you're over it, or even if you're breaking even, in a few years, your income from that debt is going to exceed the payment, and it's just good business. Me and my wife were talking about it the other day. I was like, hey, do you ever feel bad about renting to people when they could just buy a house for less than their monthly rent payment to us? And she's like, no, not at all. I was like, well, why not? And she's like, well, we provide a service. We take the risk, and that makes us reap the reward. There's really no reward without some sort of risk, and they can just pack up and leave anytime they want. And I talked to my neighbor right across the street here. He rents. He's been there for 6 years, and his house is great. He maintains the yard, put a pool in the back, and it's actually really legit. Actually, it makes me a little jealous, but and he's a tenant, and I was like, man, if you ever need a place to stay, I was like, call me up. He's like, yeah, man. I was like, you could buy a house cheaper, My wife's a real estate agent, and I was like, you could buy a house cheaper than your rent payment. He's like, I know, man. He's like, but I don't want to be tied down. He's like, if I want to move next month, I can just move next month. He's like, I want a month, and he's like, I've been here for 6 years, but I'm not tied down. If something breaks, I just call the landlord. I asked him, hey, what's broke since you've been there? He's like, the AC went out one time. He's like $350. He's like, there's other minor things. He's like, but I never called the landlord about that. He's like, if I do, the landlord's gonna raise my rent. And I was like, yeah, you're right, man. I was like, every time you cost us as a landlord money, and for pity shit, and you're calling us, every month, oh, my light bulb went out, oh, there was a small leak under the sink, and we gotta call a plumber. It's $80, and the guy could have just went on there and tightened it up with a wrench, and it took him 5 minutes. And as a landlord, I'm gonna start charging you more rent because every time I have to call a plumber out or call an electrician out to fix a light, it's $80, $100. That's gonna add up over a year. Every 6 months, 3 months, whatever. I'm just gonna pass that down the line because it rolls downhill. So, but debt, don't be afraid of it. You just have to use it. A lot of people say cash is king. If you saved $1 million, how long would it take you? You probably never save it. If you try really hard to borrow $1 million, how long would it take you to borrow it? And then you put that into assets, and then you reap the benefits of those. The assets, the whole key is to have the assets pay for themselves, and then you just skim off the top. And if you can do that, and say you invest $1 million now, and in 15 years you have that $1 million paid off, and you've been skimming off the top for the last 15 years, and you're only 20, you'll be 35, have a bare minimum of $1 million in assets, and then because everything's going to appreciate because of inflation. So that $1 million in assets that you bought 20 years ago, maybe $2 million, and you've been skimming off for the last 15 years, and now it's all profit. Rent prices are going to go up. Everybody knows they are. Gas prices are going up. Everybody knows they are. It's going to happen. It may not be today. Things fluctuate. Yeah, gas prices went down. Oh, $2.50 a gallon. Woo, guess what? A month later, 2 months later, I'm back at $3.25. It fluctuates. That's just the market. But when you lock in a tenant to a fixed rent, you're still on a fixed mortgage, it's pretty safe. But just read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and David Bach's Automatic Millionaire, and you'll be in a good mindset. And just keep throwing those questions at me, and I'll try to answer them on here if I can. Thanks a lot, guys. Maybe Hacks out.